Today on Frontline Rewind, it's Girls Gone Wild. Woo! Woo! This is really. Adel Meisenheimer, typically your executive producer, but today I'm the host. And I'll tell you why. I'm here with Riki Michele Palmer. She goes by Riki Michele. That's her stage artist name. I'm going to call her Michele today because we're friends, and that's what I call her. We'll find out how she got her nickname, Riki Michele, in a little bit. But the reason why I asked Les if I could host this show today is because Michele released a new album called Push, and it's really female-infused. She's got her writing and performing and the famous Margaret Becker producing and co-writing. Woo! So I thought, you know what? I think we need a female interview today.
I'm liking it.
Yeah.
I think you're on the right track.
Thank you. Thank you. As executive producer, I get to make these types of decisions.
Yeah. You're the boss. You do whatever you want.
Thank you. And what really also brought us today is to talk about an album that was released many moons ago. Michele's first album called Big Big Town. Mm-hmm. It was released on Broken Records in 1989.
I was going to ask you if you knew, because I had no idea. I just know that I was really, really young.
Yeah. Do we want to say how old you were?
I was probably in my early 20s, I think. If that.
Yeah. Maybe. I think she was a little underage.
89?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. 20, almost 22.
Yeah. All right. Good. And that was on Broken Records, which was something that was put out by Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa, and then later those projects ended up being on Brainstorm Artists International, which was the label put together by Gene Eugene and Ojo Taylor. And that's kind of how this came about, that I'm involved in what we're going to talk about today, is because my music group has a distribution situation, and I'm just helping the Brainstorm Artists projects get out, kind of eke out of the vault, you might say, on a digital level. So we're going to release Big Big Town digitally for the first time.
Nice.
Yeah. And so it's Gene Sr. who actually has ownership of some of these old Brainstorm Artists International projects, and Big Big Town is one of those. And that's how we kind of connect and came together today. Now, Michele, you've been involved in projects on Frontline Records anyway, as a singer, probably on, Daniel Amos? Yeah. And, this is the scene where you're coming out as a young artist. There's Altar Boys, and obviously we're going to get to Adam Again, which was your signature band. I think that people know you the best. And but you're right in that scene where Frontline is this new label putting out new artists, and there you are too. And so why don't we go into Big Big Town? Gosh, here you are. You're almost 22, and you're doing a solo album, your first one. And, and here's Gene Eugene writing the music for this, and Steve Hindalong of what's called Youth Choir, now The Choir. And so he's writing mostly lyric, but it's not really all his lyric, is it?
No. Yeah, and Gene wrote a lot of the lyrics as well. And when we were talking about doing the solo record, we decided to do a collaboration between the three of us. And I was not accustomed to writing lyrics at that time, but I wasn't comfortable having somebody else write all the lyrics for me and basically be singing their thoughts and their heart. So what we would do is just hang out all the time. I would tell them stories of things that I felt were important to me, or even just gab about my life. And I even gave Steve my journal, which was nauseating, to do that, because it's just me throwing up on pages basically, and here, look at my guts, and I'm a dork, it was all just venting anyways. But I was happy to do it. He was a friend of mine. I trusted him, and we all felt pretty comfortable with one another. And that's how the stories of most of the songs came about. That's how we collaborated. And I learned a great deal about songwriting in that process.
Right. And in fact, you told me there's a couple songs that Steve remembered some of your story and ended up putting it as a lyric.
Such a stinker. I had no idea. I can't remember. He must have known that he was going to be writing for the record, because I don't think you're safe with Steve Hindalong anyway when you're telling him stories, because I think his wheels are always spinning about lyrics. He's such a poet that it's just his nature to grasp, words. Mm-hmm. And I hung out with him quite a bit at that time, and I would see him like even talking to himself, like, I know he's just a word guy. And we said we wanted him to do some writing for it. And I remember hanging out at Stephen Derry's studio and telling him stories about, my friend that was driving me crazy, and I was so frustrated in certain situations. And then he came back with 2 songs about the stories I was telling him, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm frustrated with her, but I don't know if I want you to put it in a lyric, But it actually was what I was going through at the time, and I realized that is so smart. And yes, I do like this, that it's poetic and it's something that other people can listen to and identify with, because it's our everyday situations. And one of the songs was I Want to Talk About It Now. And the other one was, I can't remember off the top of my head.
A Little Grace.
Yes, A Little Grace. A Little Grace. Because I think what I was talking about was wanting to be understood, and if I could just be extended a little grace during this period of trying to be understood. And he really attached to that, and I had no idea when I was telling him these, to me, trivial stories about my life, he was going to turn into something lovely. And I'm glad he did it. I was a little taken off guard, but I'm glad he did it.
Let's let listeners hear this song, A Little Grace.
Great.
Off the album Big Big Town by Riki Michele. Now that other song that Steve got the words from you as well that you mentioned, I want to talk about it.
Oh yeah.
What's that about?
I was mad. I was so mad. I had a friend that it was a frustrating relationship. It was a sweet friend that I'm still friends with, but we were young and silly, and I don't even remember the details of the irritation, but I remember going through a situation with her where I didn't feel like I was being heard. And then I also remember having moments like that with Gene, where I just didn't, we all go through that with the people in our lives, where you feel like you have a point and you're just not being heard. And I think I was like wearing poor Steve out with my mundane yakety yakking, and I had no idea he was like, making mental notes of it. And I remember it making me laugh when I heard the song back at me, or when he was telling me about the lyrics, because I was like, how did you peg me? That was right on the money. And at first, it was a little hard to be that vulnerable, and it was a little embarrassing. But again, I realized this is where I'm at. This is who I am right now. And these are the topics in my life that I feel are important. So I felt like it was a good representation of what I wanted to put out there.
Yeah.
So
here's, I want to talk about it. Riki Michele.
so good. sad, sad, so sad. I wanna talk about it. I wanna talk about it now. I wanna talk about it. I wanna talk about it now, 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 about it now, 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 about it now, 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 talk about it now, 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 now.
Where's the band?
Adel, where can all of the listeners find such great music like Riki Michele and all the other fine artists?
Oh, on frontlinerecords.us.
Fantastic.
Yes. Now, Riki Michele, okay, tell us the story behind that. How'd you end up with that nickname?
I've told so many fibs over like the course of 20 years. It's hard to remember exactly how it came about, but I will try to be as honest as I can be. And here's how I think it started. Gene, I was in Adam Again, and it was just at the beginning. I don't even know if we'd released a record yet. And Gene copped his nickname, Gene Eugene. It was his actual name is Eugene. So it just made sense, Gene Eugene, and it had a nice ring to it. And I was a little jealous, and I wanted a nickname too. Mm-hmm. And I wanted it to be like a little sassy boy's name. And I was thinking Ricky or Robbie. And I'm a huge Steely Dan fan, and people knew that about me, and like a couple of us would always be singing Ricky, don't lose that number. So I decided to jump on Ricky, and Gene was like, I like Ricky, but I think you need to keep your own name in there as well. I remember having this conversation with him, and I was like, But we kept it, and I'm glad we did. It just kind of stuck over the years, and
and you still hung on to it even with your latest album.
I did, and the reason I have to be honest with having a nickname over the years, it hasn't been the most comfortable thing because you want to be your most authentic self. But I realized that is a very deep part of who I am, and it has a big, chunk of my life and my growing up and, my experience in it. And I just decided it's also how a lot of people that I still don't know identify with our music. So I just kind of felt it was important to hang on to it. And it still feels like me, it still feels like a big part of me.
Yeah.
So I'm all right with it.
Good.
I'm okay with it.
Good. And, on this Big Town album, we hear your voice, and with Gene's writing and his production and all of that, we hear Adam Again in that. Crazy,
Oh, yeah.
And you're known as, this female voice, and also with your dancing, in the performance and all of that, you're just feeling this music, and you're such a huge part of Adam Again. And we have, such great Adam Again fans. They're so solid. And so we see this coming, even though this was before an Adam Again album was released, and right? And so
was it?
Did we have an Adam Again before?
Was it in a New World of Time came out first?
Okay, on Broken Records, in fact, yes.
Yes, and then then Homeboys, maybe?
Okay.
No?
Dig?
10 songs.
Oh, yes.
10 songs,
Yeah.
yes. 10 songs, and then my solo record, and then Homeboys. It's all, like, when I think about that time, like, what came first?
Yeah, and so we're hearing this Adam Again influence on your solo project, and it's fun. It's fun to just have you more featured and prominent, and yet you've got this background of...
Well, let's chalk it up to the mastermind of the music, which is Gene Eugene, and we both had the same influences in our lives. And the work of Adam Again is some of my favorite music, and was my favorite types of grooves at the time. So I knew that I wanted it to have those flavors. Around that same time, I was also listening to, I think Soul to Soul just came out with a new record, or the first Soul to Soul record I'd ever heard. I think Janet Jackson just came out with a new solo record. That kind of sort of flight from the funk music movement into that like new laid back loungy soul scene was important to me as well. So we talked about that and tried to incorporate those types of grooves where it wasn't an Adam Again groove, it wasn't the funk groove, it wasn't the Talking Heads groove, but it was some sort of like morph between everything that we were experiencing at the time.
Yeah. Now there's a couple interesting titles on this project. There's 2 Bride song titles. 1984 and 1989, right? What happened there? What in your journal? Where did that come from?
Well, that didn't come from my journal. That's real life stuff. That's when I married Gene Eugene. It was in 1984. I was 18 years old. I don't recommend getting married at 18 years old, but it's what we did. Yeah. It's what we did. And we did all the music for the wedding, and he wrote 1984 for me to come down the aisle to the night before the wedding.
He wrote it the night before the wedding.
I believe so. Yeah, there was and I think we recorded it like 9:00 at night the night before, and I walked down the aisle to it or something like that. It was like the day before the wedding, and we were up very late. And it sort of represents the commitment and the sweetness of the relationship. And, it's kind of a broad look at connection between someone. So, to us, it also had sort of there was a spiritual connection there too. And then the 1989 song was the more realistic view of
5 years later into the marriage.
Yeah, exactly. Where you're kind of worn out and you've been through the ringer, the honeymoon's over, the wedding's over, and the realistic look at what you go through, and yet you're kind of still hanging on. And I felt that was very sweet, and both of them totally needed to be on the same record together.
I like it. Well, let's listen to both back to back then. What do you
Sounds good.
say? The Bride Song, 1984, and then the Bride Song,
89, I believe.
5 years later. Here it is.
I'll take a step onto a road that leads to where you wait for me. My place is by your side, and when you touch my hand, I'll know that you'll be always there for me. Your love is enough to always shield me from the wind and cold, together growing old, and I will never leave. I will never leave. Another day. On the job, I think of you. And this love of yours, you've given me the best of it, I know. Hard day is over, thank the Lord. He's given us the happiest of homes. We bask in the summer stars, and the world becomes our playground till the dawn. Another day, the pressure's on. Sometimes it gets the best of us, I know. Bills in a pile beside the door, and half-done work and muscles growing soft. We lean into the autumn wind and keep each other's hats from coming off. Another day. I didn't mean to say the things I said, but well, you got my feelings right between the eyes. I guess we made a mess of it this time. Let's grab a hold, I know it's hard. Hard forgiving, but harder being apart. We'll fight the winter frost with a blanket and the fire within our hearts.
Now, Terry Taylor snuck a song in here. How'd that happen?
He did. We were all hanging out at the time. we were doing a lot of recording at Steve and Derry's studio in, I want to say somewhere in Orange County. I'm not exactly sure what town. But we were hanging out there a lot. We would do some recording there with Daniel Amos and some different studios around the OC and hanging out with those guys. And when we were talking about doing the solo record, we asked Terry if he'd like to submit a song. And he submitted Ghost in the Rain. And that ended up being one of my favorite songs on the record. It is so sweet. And the lyrics are intense but lovely. And I still love it to this day.
Cool. Love it. Well, let's hear it, listeners. Ghost in the Rain by Terry Taylor on Riki Michele's album, Big Big Town.
I
So this is Big Big Town by Riki Michele. Here she is. She's still doing music. Isn't that amazing? So this album was released in 1989, and for the first time, it's available digitally.
Yay.
Yay! So we're talking iTunes, Amazon, Spotify, you name it. That's digital. Here it is. Go get it. All right, now, let's get to the good stuff. Let's get to your new album. I mean, Big Big Town is good, but you've grown so much as an artist, your own person. And that's what I hear in this new project, Push. Here, I've got a picture of it right here. Here's her album, Push. It's amazing.
Thank you.
And you collaborated and also had a producer who is amazing, Margaret Becker. And you can kind of take us through how you connected with her, how you decided to, well, let's go ahead. I mean, I think maybe your journal was pretty full and you're ready to let some things out, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's been a long time since Big Big Town, and I've gone through so much. All of those years of learning experiences, and did a second and a third solo record. It wasn't until really my third solo record that I started to really step out on my own and truly find myself. And it just comes with age and maturity, I think. And then I had a band together in Nashville and was doing gigs. And then I started having babies, and which is wonderful. Yes. But it was time to step back and not do music for a while, and even after I had the kids, I was still pretty active in music. But when they became an age where it was all manageable to get out and start feeling creative again, it was time. That was about 2 years ago. I started thinking about doing another recording and getting pretty serious about it. And about a little over a year ago, I think, a friend of mine asked me, we'd gone to Nashville and then moved back to California, kind of back and forth a couple of times. And a friend of mine asked if I could surprise my friend Marie McGilvery for her 50th birthday party. And I was like, gee, I don't know if I can do it, and when is it? Maybe, I can do that 2 week in advance thing. And she's like, well, it's this Saturday. I was talking to her on a Wednesday. So Dave and I were discussing how we could make this trip happen. It would be so special to one of my dearest friends. And he said, well, if you could make it into a writing trip, if you could, get together with some peeps, put your feelers out, see if anyone can write with you while you're there, we could possibly make it work, because that's what we were going for, trying to gather songs for a record. So I put my feelers out to a lot of people. Well, the two that were available within 2 days were Margaret Becker and Rick Kua.
Cool.
Who I just met a few weeks prior to that, face to face. We've known each other or about each other for years and years, but had never met face to face. And he is one of the nicest humans on the planet, hands down. Everyone will say that. Yeah. So anyways, I surprised my friend. It was fantastic on a Saturday night. Margaret had Saturday open. And the thought of going in and writing with someone, I don't care who it is, it's terrifying. The thought of writing with Margaret Becker is like quadruple terrifying to me. And I went to her house and showed up shaking like a chihuahua on her porch. And she's like, girl, come in and settle down. She gave me a blanket, gave me a glass of wine, and said, okay, let's do this. And we talked about certain things that I was already doing, and I gave her some ideas and played her some little snippets of these little recordings I had on my phone. And we knocked out a song together. Great. And I wanted to hug her the whole time. It was the most comfortable, nurturing experience for me. And at the end of our session, we were just talking about my future and what I wanted and what kind of record I wanted to make. And I just kind of, in passing, asked her, do you produce? And she said, well, yes, I do. And we didn't say anything about it much more than that. And she did say, I would really like to write with you again. I'll be as involved as you want me to be. And that's how she left it. And I knew on the flight home that that's the direction I wanted to go. And by the time I got home, I was figuring out how to make the plans. And I called her and said, I want you. Yeah. Are you in? And she said, yes, I'm in. And then we just started the whole process of talking about what kind of sounds we wanted. We started sharing music back and forth. I didn't know it, but it turns out she listens to the same type of music I listen to. So she was no stranger to the little snippets I was sending her here and there and the little samples of music that I liked. And then we started Skyping together to write music together.
Yeah.
So I would be out in my car and rattle something off in my phone and then text it to her. And then we'd have a Skype session about it and we'd make it into a tune.
Love it.
Yeah, it was a really comfortable and lovely experience.
Great. I'm a big fan of hers. Yeah,
Me too.
Yeah. That's got to be crazy to work with one of your, you're a big fan of this person, and yet she's so real and easygoing and just puts you at ease. It's wonderful. Now, you call this album Push, and one of the songs is Push. How do we get there?
Well, the whole process of the record, when I started thinking about writing for the record, I was in San Diego. We decided to move back to Nashville because we thought it would be better, for the family's future. We had a community there. We loved it here, but financially just seemed to be a better fit to go back to Nashville. We were there for about 4 or 5 months, and my sister became very ill. And we thought she had the flu, and within a few weeks found out that she had colon cancer and it spread to her liver, and it was taking her very quickly. That was a game changer, and I flew back a couple of times to be with her, and the second time that I was with her, she passed away, and that was all in a matter of a couple of months. And that was a catalyst of a lot of the lyrics on the record Push, and including the song Push. It originally was about that event that kind of takes you into the most uncomfortable place in your life and the determination to hang on and move ahead with hope. And that's basically it encapsulates a little bit of the grief I went through, the determination I went through to come out of it on the other side, and the way you look at life when you do come out on the other side. So yeah, that's what it's about.
And I can relate to that. My husband was diagnosed with sinus cancer about a year and a half ago.
That's right.
Yeah, he went through surgery and decided against radiation and chemo, and so we've been on a different type of nutrition plan and supplements and that kind of thing. He's doing well, but yeah, it is all about hope. And no matter what doctors say, as far as their diagnosis, I've never seen anybody pull through this without radiation and chemo. But yeah, and you push through it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
And the determination that you have to listen to the voice, go with the flow, and then come out of it, you might not be unscathed, but you've learned a lot, and it's the determination to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. So here it is, Push. Riki Michele off her album, Push.
You surprised me with your change of direction. Why now when everything was smooth? Did you think I needed tragedy? Something to keep me moving. You know I hate being told what to do. I called the saints, but they were slow to help me. I tried to crawl away inside an empty room. Secure the latches that I'm still afraid to open. And does it matter to you? It seems your mission is true. 'Cause here I am, I'm looking up from the edge and have not fallen yet. I am hanging on, I'm moving on. I know the dust will settle someday. 'Cause I can feel you at my back and hard to know just what we're doing here. 'Cause a map is strong, a love is gone, and I can drown or find my way. You already know, you already know. I feel the pain has changed into something soothing.
Now, Michelle, one of my favorite songs, and it's the one that closes the album. Hey Mama Hey. Tell us about it. I love it. I got so much energy and it's fun.
This song was a dream come true on two different complete levels. About a year and a half ago, I went to an artist camp called Chick Camp, girls only.
All right.
Girls Gone Wild.
Yep.
It was mostly musical artists, but I brought a ton of my friends who weren't artists. It was a weekend artist fun thing out in a winery. So we literally pitched our tents in grapevines, and they had an artist tent set up, like little. When I say tent, I just mean a little like pop up, and then a little tent. The artist tent had amp and some musical instruments, and then they had an art tent with all kinds of different arts and crafts stuff going on. So it was a really creative weekend. When you first get there, they give you a theme, and the theme was harvest. You may write a song, write a poem, write a play, anything you want to. Then on Saturday night, you may share it if you'd like. You know, no one was pressured to do anything. And I just felt such a camaraderie with all of these women, and having gone to Nashville, where I have some deep connections. There's some really true friends, like sisters, that I've had for years and years and years. And coming back to La Mesa, where I have really deep connections here. They don't go back years and years, but feel like I have sisters here too. And then going to this Chick Camp, where you kind of just like really bond with other artists. It was so amazing. So I wrote this "Hey Mama Hey" line that I thought these women could sing. So on Saturday night, because I don't play very well yet in front of people, I taught it to all the girls, which were about maybe 50, 60 girls. We're all sitting under the stars. And I knew that some of them could harmonize. And I taught them that, hey, mama, hey. And they all started harmonizing it. And I said, just sing it over and over again. And I sang a line over the top of all of these voices singing. And it was the sweetest, most beautiful moment. It was everything that I dreamed it would be. I'd been thinking about it for 2 days, you know. And I was hoping that it would be that way. And everybody got teary, and it was really sweet. And after I was done singing my part, they just kept singing it over and over. It gives me chills to think about it. So I knew that I wanted it to be on the record. And I wasn't sure if I wanted it to be an a cappella number or if I wanted to put music to it, but it almost had a tribal nature to me.
Yes.
And like another song on the record, I feel I deeply feel connected to everyone, no matter what your background is. And I deeply feel connected to my female friends. And this was one of those times where I felt so deeply connected. So it kind of morphed into a little bit more tribal flavors, adding a little bit of musicians to it. But when I got to Nashville, since I had deep relationships there, I was able to get some of my dearest friends on it. We did one take where we got, 8 girls, including myself and Margaret, in the recording studio. And we sang it over and over again. And then we added some clapping. And then Maggie was like, okay, if you feel comfortable, I'm going to point to you, and I just want you to like go off and sing your own thing, do your own thing. And all of them got like, including me, I'm not comfortable with this either. She is. I think Maggie's the only one really super comfortable with this. We all got, like deer in the headlights. You're kidding me, right?
Yeah.
But they were all game. They're like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
So she did. She pointed at everyone, and somebody would do their own thing, and it totally sounded like them. My one friend, Marie, she's a singer-songwriter, and she's gorgeous and has this beautiful voice. My one friend from New Zealand, Tosh McGill, just happened to be in town, and she's such a special friend. She's got this really deep, sultry, and she brought in her like low notes. And then one of my other friends, Tom Granger's wife, Holly, she and I did this thing together. I mean, it was just so sweet. Everyone down the line. Then Jude Mason, she was like, hey, mama, mama, mama. And that line was so perfect. We just kept like putting, flying it into different parts.
Right.
all of it just made me so happy and so excited. And I think it's one of the most special, intimate moments on the entire record. Yeah. And every time I hear it, I get tears in my eyes. And I hear them all and I see all their faces. And it just makes me so happy.
I love it. All right, here we go. Hey Mama Hey, off Push.
Oh, but Mama, you're good company. You're my safe place and give me space to breathe. You let me take as long as I need. Oh, but Mama, you're good company. Oh, but Mama, I do love your style. Your graceful timing and your sweet smile. Your giving hands that care for many. It's your turn now, I'll give you what you need. It's a harvest for the pain and a harvest for the making. It's a harvest for the turn and a harvest for the giving. Oh, but Mama, your spirit's free and wild. You spark with life, your dance is like a child. The light you carry speaking to me. Oh, but Mama, your spirit's wild and free. Hey Mama, hey Mama, hey Mama, hey Mama,
This has been an awesome day for me, Michelle.
Thank you for coming to my home, my
You are
hood.
welcome. I love it. And I love hearing the stories behind your music. And really, it's to me, it's really different. It's night and day, big town and push. And it's exciting to see you as an artist just transforming and you've had albums in between, yes. And I'm sure it's been a pattern of moving on and moving into different things. But I'm excited. I really enjoy that very first album, and I enjoy your most recent album. And I really hope listeners will grab both of them. You know, I mean, they're both going to be available for the first time, Big Town digitally, and Push is out there on CD and digitally. So thank you so much for giving us this time and for giving us this music. And
my pleasure.
God bless you, my friend.
You too. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you. Check out Riki Michele and her new music.
Frontline Rewind.